Hello, it's Dorothy Watt, and I am a transformational homeopath and holistic wellness advocate. And welcome to this next one in the series of my 4 key remedies. We're talking about perimenopause and menopause. That can be quite a lengthy period of life, from, well, whenever it starts to whenever it finishes, really. There are lots of symptoms which can be associated with the menopause, and they needn't be. Some people sail through and some people find it incredibly difficult. But what I'd like to share with you this evening is 4 remedies which are all readily available self-help remedies which you can use should you choose to support yourself homeopathically during this time. And one of the good things about homeopathy is that you can use it alongside other things. If you find that you still have symptoms which you're not getting relief from, then try some of these remedies instead. As well as. So, the remedies I'm going to talk about today are sepia, lachesis, lycopodium, and ignatia. Now, 3 of those remedies are in the Helios 36 remedy kit. No, 4 of them, all of them, are in the 36 remedy kit, and one of them, ignatia, is in the 18 remedy kit. So you can get them from any of the homeopathic pharmacies, just loose if you just want to get one remedy, or you can get all of them. As I say, the 36 remedy kit has got all these 4 remedies in. And I'm going to take probably a slightly controversial approach today, and what I'm going to focus on, rather than the night sweats, the hot flushes, the brain fog, I'm actually going to focus on the emotions that a lot of people experience, because that can be a really useful way of differentiating between the different remedies that will help. And I do think it's a really useful way of thinking about what's happening during the menopause anyway, because it's a time of life when things get very complicated. There are often children reaching adulthood, maybe leaving home, going to university, maybe finishing college, coming back home, maybe elderly parents needing to be looked after. There are other life events that can happen. So there's retirement coming up. There could be, for anyone with a male partner, there could be a male midlife crisis happening. Lots of unpredictable happenings can be going on. And I wonder if just looking at those unpredictable events and the emotions that go with them can go quite a long way to relieving some of these symptoms that we associate with the menopause. And I'll give myself as an example here. My dad died about 8 years ago now, and when he died, my periods stopped and they never restarted. But before he died, I still had a regular cycle. So how long my periods would have gone on, I don't know, but they just stopped. And my girls will tell you that oh yes, you had menopausal symptoms, Mum. Do you remember you used to go to bed with a towel? And I did go to bed with a towel because I had night sweats. And I did experience hot flushes, but I was also aware of other things that were going on in my life that were leading to a lot of thoughts that I had around insecurity, particularly around money. And I noticed that whenever I started thinking about how am I going to cope, am I going to have enough, then up would come a hot flush. So I never associated the hot flushes with the menopause. I associated them with the emotions that I was experiencing. And when I work with people going through their menopause period, when they have a lot of hot flushes and other strong symptoms, the first thing I will do, rather than look at their hormone levels and balancing that out, the first thing I will do is go through their emotions and support all the turmoil that's going on there. And an awful lot of the symptoms really recede when our emotional load is reduced. And that's quite interesting, isn't it? Because Western society heaps more and more and more on us, and when we might expect to be getting into a time in life when we'd like to pedal back a little bit, actually we're sort of going full pelt more and having more of a load on us with these additional responsibilities and what have you. And maybe actually it's not us and what our bodies, the changes our bodies are going through, that's the issue. Maybe actually it's society and the expectations that it puts on us. That's the problem. But there we are. And you can say, but I have no choice. I have to go through this. I have to live in society. Okay, so we will look at these remedies. And as I say, I will be putting quite a lot of emphasis on the emotions and the physical symptoms that go along with those. You may find that one of these remedies you think, that's me, or you may think, I recognise my mum in that, or I recognise so-and-so else, or you may think that you go between several of the remedies. Lots of people do. So let's make a start. We'll talk about sepia first, which is a really quite well-known hormonal remedy. And not only does it have an emphasis on hormonal issues, but all of the organs in the female pelvis. Sepia is sort of a speciality remedy for those. And it's also a really good remedy for supporting the liver. So for all of those reasons, it's a really useful one for thinking about with regard to the menopause. So sepia, associated life events that might be going alongside sepia. We're thinking about someone who's weighed down by family relationships. So they could be challenging teenagers, ageing parents, a partner having a midlife crisis. And this is someone who's exhausted with all the caring that they've been doing and actually just wants to run away, just wants to escape and be on their own somewhere. So the hot flush picture that goes with this remedy is the hot flushes are worse at night and there's a lot of sweating that goes along with them. The periods are heavy and there may be headaches which are worse on the left side of the head. Most of the sepia remedies are actually on the left. Pain in the lower back and a sort of dragging down. So this is the remedy if you start to get a slight prolapse of the uterus, of the vagina, of the bladder, any of those sort of being dragged down things, sepia's the one to go for. And along with that, pelvic floor being dragged down, you could have a weakness in the pelvic floor area too, some stress incontinence, dryness and itching in the vagina, no sex drive. And that's an important distinction between this and another of the remedies that we're looking at, which could look quite similar. So you completely go off any sort of physical sex at all. So the emotional picture really that's going along with this is depression, irritability and anxiety. And you feel better when you're alone. You feel better for dancing. Vigorous physical exercise, but not sex, really, really helps. As does chocolate, as does sour foods and sweets and some alcoholic drinks. And things that make you feel worse, stress. As you can see from the life events that go alongside it, stress really doesn't help here. Getting cold doesn't help. And having to communicate doesn't, because it's so obvious to you what the problem is, but it isn't obvious to other people because you've been keeping everything together for so long and being the supporter and being the one who's taken the central role. And then when you've had enough, other people don't have the insights into what's going on that you do. So that's the sepia picture. It's depressed, it's worn out, it's dragged down, maybe with prolapses, with heavy periods, with hot flushes, night sweats, and you just want to be alone. You've done your bit. You've just had enough. So some other things, incidentally, that sepia is useful for, because it's a hormonal remedy, it's not just useful at the menopause period, so it's also good for morning sickness. It's good for constipation, it's good for period pains, particularly when it fits that picture, you know, the low back pain, the dragging down sensation, issues with the pelvic floor, PMS, useful during labour, and it's useful during miscarriage as well. So these times of transition when hormones are fluctuating and going up and down. So that's sepia. Really, really useful as a remedy. And next we are going to look at a remedy called lycopodium. And that's another of the remedies that's in the 36 remedy kit that Helios produce. It will also be in the Ainsworth kits. Now lycopodium, if you want a sort of visual picture to go along with it, it's not so much the dragged down picture that you get with the sepia, it's the having to tread on eggshells picture. So, you know, if there are people in your lives who behave quite unpredictably, so that could be at work or it could be at home, people that you sort of think, I've got to be really careful around them because I don't know what's going to make them blow up and I don't want them to shout at me, and so I tiptoe around them, try not to upset them, spend all the time on eggshells. And actually, if you need lycopodium as a remedy, you might find that the rest of your family or people who are close to you would be saying the same about you, that they're treading around you on eggshells as well because they don't quite know how you're going to be reacting. So the life events are really to do with uncertainties. So there's a lot of anticipation going on there. You might be feeling bullied, or just that you're a bit out of control because someone else is pulling the strings, or they are being quite controlling with their behaviour and their demands, and you never know which way it's going to go. So there could be employment issues here, there could be redundancies on the card, and then what's going to happen? Or there could be retirement looming, and then what's going to happen? What's going to happen to my income? How much money am I going to have? When's my pension going to kick in? Have I actually got a pension? Did I remember to do this? Have I remembered to top up this? So that sort of uncertainties. And it could be that you've got grown-up kids who've come to live back at home, and they may be are finding life a bit hard because they actually don't want to be back at home either. And so that can be quite a bit of a dance around, can't it? Trying to work each other out and work out where the boundaries are, and sort of lots of issues around uncertainty and not quite sure what's going on, and feeling that, you know, it's not your own life anymore. Those are the sort of feelings that go with lycopodium. So the symptom picture, you've got poor memory, confusion, and difficulty concentrating as some of the main things. And that's really quite an anxious picture, isn't it? So when you are feeling anxious about things, your head just stops being clear and starts feeling a bit all over the place. So you may find you've got an anxious feeling in the pit of your stomach. And anyone who has IBS, you may find that your IBS plays up during this sort of time as well. So you could be quite irritable, because that's what I said about people around you may feel that they have to be on eggshells around you, because you don't quite know what's happening and you don't quite feel in control with things. Craving sugar, craving sweets, so that's a little bit similar to the sepia. Headaches, instead of being on the left side, which they were with sepia, are on the right side. And lycopodium is a really big right-sided remedy. So on the right side of the head, and particularly in the temples. So it's here, just on either side, just above your eyes. Hot flushes are worse in the evening. And again, there's a lot of sweat with them, and that's a nasty smelling sweat. Dryness in the vagina, swollen joints and arthritis. So if you start to notice that your fingers are getting a bit fat and a bit sort of stiff and achy, then that's something that would point you towards lycopodium here. And you may find your sleep suffering. That's not just with the hot flushes and the sweats. Anxious dreams, and when you wake up in the morning you don't feel as if you've had a good night's sleep at all. And the things that make you feel better are warm food and drink. And that's quite a clear-cut one. You're not a salad person. You really don't want salads. You don't want cold water. You want warm drinks and warm food. Better for movement, so that's a bit like the sepia, but dancing's not a characteristic of lycopodium like it is of sepia. And better for cooling down, because you're actually worse when you get too hot. Though you want warm food and drink. Seems a bit contradictory, doesn't it? So you're worse for any sort of stress, any sort of anticipation, something where you're not sure what's going to be happening. Worse for warmth, worse being around a lot of people. So there's quite a lot of sort of claustrophobia in this remedy as well. Worse before your periods, and characteristically between 4 and 8 in the afternoon. So that's when people are coming home from school, when they're coming home from work. When you've done a full day and you've had enough, that's the time that you feel at your worst. Really worse when you've got something tight round your waist, because there's a lot of bloating in this picture as well. And so the bloating would be worse in the afternoon, so 4 till 8 is when it would typically flare up. And anything on the right side of the body. And I said that sepia was a hormonal remedy and a good remedy for the organs in the women's pelvis. Lycopodium is a really big liver remedy, and it's a big kidney remedy as well. So you get a lot of support for the bladder and the kidney and the liver as well, and the digestion. It's also a really big ovarian remedy, which is one of the reasons that it's really good for emotional symptoms that are happening at this time of life. So the other things that you might find lycopodium useful for, if you've invested in some, you might as well get your full money's worth. So bloating, particularly at that afternoon time, is a really good one that a lycopodium will deal well with. Indigestion, particularly the sort of indigestion that comes on after things like cauliflower, cabbage, beans, lentils, pulses, all those sorts of healthy things. Lycopodium is much worse for having all of those things. Think about in the head rather than lower down. Lycopodium is a really good remedy also for chronic catarrh and congestion in the ear. So glue ear, if young children get glue ear, lycopodium is a good remedy to think of for that. It's also good for bedwetting. It's good for piles, hemorrhoids and varicose veins, so the sort of swelling in the veins where the coating around the outside's got a bit loose, and so it's poorly controlled. So you've got the sort of the loose, the swollen veins in your legs, the swollen veins in your bottom, which are quite common after childbirth anyway, because it's the straining that leads to that, and really good for stage fright as well. So you can see lots of anticipation, lots of anxiety in that remedy. So if you recognise yourself or someone else in that picture, if any of those life events ring bells for you, then have a go, try some lycopodium. It really might help your symptoms. And if you think, well, my symptoms are a mixture of those two, then alternate the two remedies. That is absolutely fine. What we want is you to feel comfortable, and that's the most important thing. So the next remedy we'll go on to is Ignatia. Now this is the one that is in the 18 remedy kit as well as in the 36 remedy kit. And this is not a remedy that you would normally have associated with menopause. It's not one that people talk about. But I think it's well worth putting in here because there has been some research which shows that people who really struggle to accept that this change is happening in their life, that their periods are slowing down, that they're going to stop, that everything is going to change, or a lot of things are going to change within their body. People who have problems adjusting to that change and accepting it often experience much more extreme symptoms. And Ignatia is a fantastic remedy for acute grief. So that seems to me to be a really good place to consider Ignatia. For people whose periods are changing, whose moods are changing, who've got these symptoms cropping up that they haven't had before, who really want to go back to being like they used to be, or for someone like me whose periods just stopped. Ignatia, as I said, it's a really good grief remedy, and my periods just stopped when my dad died. I've worked with several people whose periods have just stopped when they've had some sort of emotional turmoil, when they've broken up with a partner or something like that that has really knocked them emotionally has happened. Their periods have stopped. I've had people come to me in their 30s and say, oh, I've gone into early menopause. So, well, what was happening in your life round about then? And I have always found so far that there has been some profound, sudden shock and grief that's happened. And I prescribe Ignatia, and I always accompany it with a warning that you might find that your periods start again. And so far, everyone that I've given that warning to, their periods have. Clearly, I didn't give myself any Ignatia at the time. I had other things on my mind. So, Ignatia is a good one to think about. And at the moment there seem to be quite a lot of people whose bodies are suddenly being thrown into menopause. So their hormones are just stopping. Their body has just stopped producing estrogen or progesterone. And so they're thrown into menopause without any preparation, without things slowing down over a period of time. So Ignatia then would be a really good remedy for someone who suddenly, without any preparation or warning, finds themselves in the thick of these symptoms. So, associated life events, I've gone through several of them here. Loss or grief, sudden loss of periods, mourning your loss of fertility. So someone who's been trying to have children for a long time, when the periods stop, there's no going back now. You know, you can wish you were pregnant, wish you had been pregnant. Now it isn't going to happen. So Ignatia's a good remedy to think of there. From a slightly different tack, issues with meeting your own high standards. So if you're a real perfectionist and you beat yourself up if you don't, act as perfectly as you think you should be acting, then Ignatia's a really good remedy for that. Kids leaving home, marriage breaking down, relationship breaking down, loss, grief, and shock is probably the key words to hang on to for Ignatia. And there's a lot of contradictory symptoms with Ignatia. It's a bit of a strange one. So, you're having your periods and then they suddenly stop. You may get hemorrhoids, but unlike most hemorrhoids, they're actually better for sitting down. So instead of it feeling uncomfortable when you sit on them, they actually feel better. Very light sleep, so the slightest sound wakes you up. If you become the sort of person who can hear, a moth's wing on the lamp or something like that, and you're fully awake, then Ignatia's a good one there. Feeling of a lump in your throat. So that can quite often go with grief, this sort of feeling of tightness that it's quite hard to swallow. There can be a dry, nervous cough as well. And tension headaches with a sharp pain. And really an emotional instability. So you might think that you're actually going mad. So you're a bit sort of up and down like a roller coaster. And you could find yourself, one minute you're laughing and the next minute you're crying, and the next minute you're laughing about something that actually really isn't funny and you should not be laughing at. But for you it's hysterically funny because you're up and down and all over the place. So I remember somebody saying to me, I've turned into a crazy woman. And Ignatia would be the remedy that I would immediately think of there. Turned into this crazy woman. You feel better. Now this is a little bit contradictory as well. Sometimes some people feel better for eating. And other people feel better for not eating. So you can either get sort of a bulimic eating, and that really helps you. And some people, it's, just don't want any food, just don't want food, just got no interest in food. So could go either way. Deep breathing or sighing, sort of. So if you catch yourself doing that, or if someone else says, what are you sighing for? Ignatia, getting all that air into your lungs really helps. Better for swallowing and better for being alone. So there's a bit of a pattern here, isn't there, of better for being alone. Ignatia is the type of person who doesn't want to be consoled. They don't want somebody to say, oh, they're there, it's okay. They don't want to be touched. They're worse in the open air. They're worse for somebody telling them it's okay or sympathising. And there's other sort of sensory things as well. So the smell of coffee and tobacco smoke are real irritants and really sort of turn you off a bit. Sepia can be a bit like that with strong smells as well. So there's a bit of a crossover there. But the mood pattern is quite different. And with the sepia, remember, you've got all those dragged down feelings. This is a loss. This is more of a hysterical type of grief than a feeling dragged down and worn out. They both want to be on their own, and both are going to be experiencing, you know, unpleasant headaches and these feelings that, you know, life's just not what you want it to be at all. So Ignatia, other things you can do with Ignatia. Well, I've said about you feel as if you've got a lump in your throat when you're swallowing. So there's a particular type of sore throat that's really helped by Ignatia, and that's a sore throat that's better for swallowing solids. Now, most sore throats aren't. Most sore throats the solids are the worst things. It's just like having a dry piece of toast when I swallow. Dry piece of toast to swallow when Ignatia's the remedy you need. Absolute piece of cake. It's the liquids and it's the just empty swallowing, just swallowing your saliva, that are more painful. Nausea, which is better for eating. So again, that contradictory thing. Absence of periods that have got nothing at all to do with the menopause, and acute grief. So if a relative dies, if a pet dies, if someone moves to a new area, sells their house, crashes their car, loses their favourite teddy, any of these acute grief episodes where there's a real loss, Ignatia's fantastic remedy. So not the first one that people would think about for the menopause, but I think there's a real place for it, particularly if your periods just stop and it's really unexpected and you suddenly find yourself thrown into a completely different way of being. So a roller coaster is a really good image to bear in mind for Ignatia. Now, the fourth remedy that I'm going to talk about is another of the key hormonal remedies, which is really, really good for all phases of the female hormonal life, from puberty through to menopause. But it, along with sepia, are the main hormonal remedies to think about. So lachesis is actually, I didn't tell you what sepia was made from, did I? Sepia is made from the ink from cuttlefish. So it's a really black ink that printers used to use. That's irrelevant. There is a story that goes with that, but it's from hundreds of years ago and it's got absolutely nothing to do with the menopause, so I won't go into that. Lachesis is made from snake venom. And the reason I'm telling you that is that the emotional picture that goes with lachesis has got something of the darting snake about it, because it is a remedy of very extreme emotions, very volatile, very punitive and unforgiving, So there's jealousy, there's rage, there's, if anyone says they know exactly where to stick the knife in, and then when they've stuck it in, they give it a quick twist before they pull it out again, that is exactly the description of lachesis. They know your weak spots, where they can really hurt you, and you've really hurt them as far as they're concerned. Whether you have or not is, who knows. So it's really judgmental, really punishing remedy. So if you suddenly find yourself being absolutely vile to the people that you're close to, and you're able to see that in yourself, and be honest enough, because this really isn't a very pleasant picture, but that you want to do something about it, I would try lachesis. So there's a lot of hot flushes and huge amounts of sweating at night. And lachesis is the remedy that's got the menopausal flooding most often associated with it. So there's flooding, there's hemorrhaging, there's a lot of blood sort of stuff, profuse blood that goes with lachesis. So fainting, sleeplessness, headaches on the left side. So that's the left side, that's the same as sepia but opposite from lycopodium. And as I said, there's this jealousy and this rage, and it's really unforgiving. You do one thing wrong and you will never be allowed to forget it. It will be dragged back up again and again and again. And clearly there's a depression that goes with that picture, because it's very unpleasant, and you can trip those emotions just like flicking a switch. They can go on and off. Some overexcitement as well. So there are elements of the roller coaster that you've got with Ignatia here. So quite up and down and non-stop talking. So you can't get a word in edgeways. If you want to defend yourself about something, no chance. Because lachesis talk and talk and talk and talk and talk. Really overexcited. But then, these ups and these downs, but there is the middle ground, and when they're on the middle ground, then the jealousy's gone, the depression's gone, and they retain their sex drive. So that's a key difference with sepia. So there are going to be elements in the sepia depression and anxiety and irritability that are going to lead to saying things that you don't mean to say. So it could be a bit confusing with the lachesis, but the sex drive is, it can be the deciding factor really, because lachesis it's on, sepia it's off. So what is it about life that can drive somebody into a lachesis state? Well, it tends to be overdoing things, and that's easily done, isn't it? Particularly in our culture, where we aren't allowed to take it easy, and the expectation is that we push, push, push. And when we're getting to the point in life where these symptoms might be hitting, where our hormones might be changing, it's particularly for women, if they're late going back into a career after children, they're still on the way up. They're still wanting to push, 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 get to where they have the potential to get. So overdoing things can be easy to do. So that could be studying too hard. It could be sleep deprivation. It could be dehydration. It could be night duty. So it could be nursing a sick relative, or it could be staying up with a child that's really not well. That sort of overdoing it, not able to care for yourself because you're doing other things, often for other people, but not exclusively. That and loss of fluids can lead to this lack-assist state. And also it's people who tend to have an extreme emotional reaction to life events. So the people who are either up here or they're down here, and sometimes they crave a middle ground, which they rarely seem to be able to find. But, you know, the people who, you can tell from the way they talk in, you know, everything's the biggest and the worst and the what have you. So that sort of picture, accompanied by some jealousy, and I do think a snake is quite a good image of, you know, this spiteful, really just getting you at your weak spot. That's something to look out for lack-assist. Always better once a period starts. So if you're still getting periods every now and again, then this is the sort of premenstrual build-up, and you notice that you're getting worse and worse and worse, and you just can't control your mood. As soon as your period starts, you feel better. Your whole mood, your whole outlook changes. Lack-assist. Applying hard pressure. So if you've got a headache, a left-sided headache, and you find, that's my right side, it's always a mirror image here, this is most confusing. So if you find yourself really pressing on your head, and you think, oh, that's lack-assist headache. Again, it's worse for tight clothing, but not necessarily because of bloating, just because anything tight feels really uncomfortable. So if you notice you're turning into one of these women who likes to wear loose and flowing clothes, think lack-assist. And it's particularly not wanting tight things around your neck and not wanting tight things around your middle. So, and that's a similarity. Well, the tight clothes around your middle, bit of a similarity to lycopodium. Bit of the opposite here, you feel better for cold drinks. Lycopodium really likes warm drinks, doesn't like cold drinks. And better for fresh air, better for being outside. You feel worse first thing in the morning. So you wake up and you've slept into a headache, or you've slept into a bad mood, or you've slept into some other sort of symptom. So that can make you actually quite reluctant to go to bed, because you know that you're going to be feeling worse when you wake up than you actually do before you go to sleep. Definitely worse before a period, worse for wearing tight clothing, and worse for hot drinks. So as I said, that's the opposite of lycopodium, who really like their hot drinks. So what other sorts of things is lack-assist useful for? Things to do with blood on the whole. So it's quite a blood-based picture as well as female hormones. So boils, bed sores, bleeding gums, PMS, varicose veins, hemorrhages, and then there's also a left-sided sore throat, which is much better for lack-assist as well. So a good range of things there. And those emotional symptoms are quite pronounced. The not wanting anything tight around your neck as well can be quite pronounced. So quite easy to pinpoint if you can distance yourself enough from what you're going through to analyse it and try to help yourself with some remedies. Because actually, let's face it, who wants to subject our loved ones to bad moods and intolerance? And even if we have had enough and just want to go away, actually we really, really don't want to hurt our loved ones, even though at the time it may seem, when it's at the worst phase, you may just want to kill everybody in your family. But when you come out of that phase, that's the time to think, I think that was the remedy I needed just now, so I'm going to try taking that. So what we'll talk about now, having been through those 4 remedies, giving you a bit of a feel for how you can differentiate between them, a bit of a look at the similarities and the differences. As I said, I made a conscious decision not to go for, this is the best remedy for hot flushes, this is the best remedy for night sweats, whatever. I made a conscious decision to go for, this is the emotional picture that goes with each of these remedies. So I have taken quite a different approach, and I hope you've liked it. And if you haven't, then I'm sorry. There are other books that you can find a different way of looking at homeopathy for menopausal symptoms. But whichever way you look at it, sepia, black acids are 2 of the main remedies to go for. So, how to take remedies for acute conditions. Now, the menopause is a little bit different than what I usually say at this point, because what I would suggest you doing, if you recognise from any of those pictures, if you think, oh yeah, that's me, then what I would suggest you do is you get some of that remedy and you take 2 or 3 a day for a couple of weeks, and then I'd see what difference you notice to how you're feeling. You may find that your emotions have evened out, that you're getting less depressed, that your dragged down feelings aren't the same, that you actually don't want to kill your family quite as much as you did, that your hot flushes aren't as bad, that your night sweats aren't as bad, that you can remember things a bit better, that your thoughts are clearer. Because these things are all interlinked. We can never just look at a physical symptom, try to knock that on the head and nothing else is going to have changed, because our emotions are so pivotal when it comes to how we feel emotionally. No, how we feel physically. So that's what I would suggest for these remedies. Try 2 or 3 a day for a couple of weeks. If there's one of those that's the predominant picture for you, then just take that one. And if you think, well, I'm a bit of that and a bit of that, then just alternate the 2. You could, if you think, oh, I'm more of this than that, then you could try for a week just doing the one, or you could say take one morning and evening and take the other one at lunchtimes, or at lunchtime and bedtime. So you could take 4 a day. You're not going to overdose on the remedies, and you could get so much relief from doing that and find yourself on much more of an even keel again, which would be fantastic. So if you've never taken homeopathic remedies before, I will just show you what they look like. So they are these little white sugar pills. And what you want to do is take one. They say it's best not to touch them, but actually I found it doesn't make much difference. So if you want to, you can tip it into the lid and then swig it back, or you can do it in your fingers, because you're going to be giving it to yourself anyway. Once you put it in your mouth, this is where it's different from Western pharmaceutical medicine, because you don't want to put it in your mouth and then take some water and swig it down and swallow it as quickly as you can. Because we're dealing with an energy medicine here, and we want the energy to get straight into your bloodstream so that it can start getting to your brain and the rest of your body and helping to even out things, get your body back towards a place of balance. Because we want that to be happening, when you put it in your mouth, the best thing to do is either put it under your tongue and suck it until it dissolves, or crunch it up in your teeth, and then it will really quickly get into the rest of your body. And I've said take 2 a day, or maybe 3 a day. If you're getting some really clear relief from a remedy, and you find that the symptoms suddenly come back again, and it's not quite your allotted time to take another one, then take another one when the symptoms come back, because that's the best way of taking these remedies acutely. And you get the best support you can without letting your body get back well out of balance before you drag it back again. I would suggest that you store them away from your phone, away from your computer, away from your TV, away from electronics basically, and away from bright sunlight, because those are all really strong sources of energy, and you want to be able to use the energy of the remedy, as much as you can of it, to support yourself. You don't want the electronics messing about with it and affecting it at all. Now, just in case you are using these in a slightly different way, if you do want to use a remedy acutely, say for bloating, so if that's what's really bothering you, sort of late afternoon bloating, and you've gone for some lycopodium, for example, or you've got a headache, you've got a sort of right-sided right temple headache, and you think, oh, that's lycopodium, I just want to get some relief from this headache. What I would suggest you do is, as soon as the headache starts, you take a remedy. You don't wait for it to get as bad as it can till you can't stand it anymore and then take it, which is what you might do with some Nurofen or whatever. You take it as soon as you possibly can, and then you'll get relief for a few minutes, 2 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, and then you'll probably find that the headache comes back again. You think, oh, I thought I'd got the hang of this, I thought I'd actually got on top of it. What your body's telling you is not that you got the remedy wrong, but that your body needs another remedy, that it's actually used up the energy in that remedy, it needs another one. So you take another one at that point, so that it might only be 10 minutes after the first, and then the pain goes again, and it'll go for longer this time, so you might get half an hour of relief, and then it's come back again. You haven't got the wrong remedy, you've got the right remedy, you just need another one, take another one, pain will go again, relief, and you'll get much more relief that time, and then you can revert to 3 times a day till the headache's gone. So you can use the remedies in that sort of way, and you could try, if you think, okay, CP is definitely me, I'm going to take 2 a day for a couple of weeks, like Dorothy said, see what difference it makes. But actually, I think I'm going to try sort of front loading it, like she's just said. So in the first half day, I'm going to take 3 doses, and then I'm going to go to 2 or 3 a day. See how you get on. Let me know how you get on. It'll be very exciting to hear. And if you find that you're getting real relief from your symptoms that way, isn't that fantastic? Try easing back after a couple of weeks and seeing if your symptoms come back again. because you don't want to take more of the remedy than you actually need. But if you still need it, if your symptoms are still carrying on, then keep taking the remedy. But as soon as the symptoms stop, as soon as things change, stop taking the remedy, because you don't want to take more than you need. That's really quite important. So if you can get really good relief from your menopausal symptoms with homeopathic remedies yourself, then that's absolutely fantastic. It's completely brilliant. But if you can't, if it's just not working for you, if it's too difficult to distance yourself from your own symptoms, then I suggest you go and see a professional homeopath and describe to them what it is you're struggling with, and they'll have a much wider range of remedies than just the 4 I've described for you, and they will really help you get on top of your remedy or on top of your symptoms. Or you may find that, say, one of these remedies gets on top of everything except there's one thing that's persisting, one specific thing that you really want help with. Then go and see it. Go and see a professional homeopath and get yourself really well supported so that you can carry on with your life without being troubled with erratic symptoms. And it's the unpredictability of them, isn't it, which is one of the problems. Unpredictability. Which remedy was that? Lycopodium. Lots of unpredictability in that remedy. Having to go around on eggshells around your symptoms. I mean, that is actually one of the things, isn't it, that happens with the menopause. You just don't know when you're going to get those hot flushes, though you can sometimes catch yourself. You've just the edge of a thought, and then you notice that your body's temperature rising. So, yes, professional homeopaths can be really, really supportive and see you through in a way that can make things much more even, much more trouble-free for you. So, what have I got for you? Well, if you found that the remedies in this talk, if you've thought, yes, actually, I can recognise bits of all of those, I've got an out and about kit here which contains all 4 of the remedies that I've talked about in a handy little bottle which is labelled, and it comes with a sheet of paper which has got on it, or it comes with a PDF and you can print it out. It's got the profiles of all the 4 remedies that I've talked about, and all of the instructions and the acute guidance and all that sort of stuff. It's got all that there for you. So if that sounds like a good idea to you, if you think, yeah, actually these remedies are really going to help me, and I would just like to be able to have one of those, carry it around in my handbag, it's going to make the world of difference to me. If you're the sort of person who that would help, these kits are £40 and you can order them from my website. You go to the courses and kits tab at the top and you scroll down until you get to the out and about kits. And then there's one for perimenopause and menopause, and this is it. If you're the sort of person who'd rather have your 18 or your 36 remedy kit or your 42 remedy kit that Ainsworths do, then all of those remedies are in there, and help yourself to those, and then you've got other remedies as well. If you've found really useful what I've said, then please sign up for my newsletter on my website. Like this video, which is not on YouTube at the moment, it's on my Facebook page, but it will be on my YouTube channel, so you might be watching it there later. Please like it, please subscribe to my YouTube channel, and like my Facebook page, Dorothy Watt Homeopathy and More, and then you'll get more of these tips on different topics. And the next one of these lives that I'm going to be doing is hay fever. Hay fever already? We've only just started coming out of winter. Well, March is really the sort of time when we need to start thinking about it, because that's when the tree pollen starts, and that's what bothers a lot of people. So I hope you found that useful. I've really enjoyed thinking about the 4 remedies for menopause and perimenopause, which can really support people with their emotions and the symptoms that go along with them. And let me know how you get on. Do leave me a comment, send me an email, or write a comment on my Facebook page. And it would be great to hear how you're doing and be able to cheer you along.